Julia wrote a book called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Sleaze-Free Selling, and she's got copies of it in the back today. And what intrigued me about Julia is that she's been top 1% of the worldwide sales force in Mary Kay Cosmetics and became a titanium power seller on eBay, which means she grossed over $100,000 per month in sales or more. And she built a multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio, and she speaks all over the world, and she has this message that I think everyone needs to hear right now. So if you've ever felt sleazy about your marketing, we're gonna have Julia come up and explain why maybe you shouldn't. So let's welcome her up. Julia Kline, everybody.
Since you are here listening to me today, I am going to assume that a few things are true about you. Number one, being an author, that you see yourself to some extent, greater or lesser, as a creator as well, an artist. Number two, you'd like the world to read more of your books. And number three, the idea of selling your books doesn't exactly fill you with passion and joy. So what's an author to do? How do you get people to read your books without having to sell them? The bad news is that readers are not going to simply discover your books all on their own without you having to do anything to make that happen. So you are kinda gonna have to learn how to sell. But sales and selling has gotten a bad rap over the years. It doesn't have to be the painful process that we so often imagine it to be. In the next 9 minutes, I intend to shift how you see sales. When I'm done up here, you'll be at least a little bit more willing to go out into the world selling your books, as well as selling any other products and services that you may have to offer. And since that's a pretty tall order, I would like to know if I succeeded or not. If you do, in fact, have an aha moment in these next couple of minutes, I would love for you to come and tell me about it. I'll be in the back of the room for the rest of the day. I'd love the chance to meet you. Last thing, before we begin, I'd like to clarify that this is not going to be a presentation about tactics and strategies about how to sell books online. Because frankly, there's a bunch of other speakers here today who are here to talk to you about precisely that, and I don't want to step on their toes. So rather, I'm going to talk to you about the mindset that you need to have about yourself, your art, and your business before you can ever hope to be successful at implementing any of the strategies. We've heard a lot of them today, right? You're a little bit overwhelmed at this point. Before you can take action implementing any of them, you have to be thinking the right way. And that's what I'm here to help you with. So with no further ado, let's dive in. The biggest problem that any entrepreneur faces, but especially authors, is that the thing that you are selling is also something that you have created. And creation assumes the fundamental, undeniable, irrevocable value of that which is created. It's good because someone loved it enough to create it. Selling is virtually the opposite. Our traditional attitude towards selling implies that the thing being sold isn't intrinsically valuable, that there's no obvious reason that someone would want it or pay money for it or expend time or energy to go out and get it. Because if there was intrinsic value, you wouldn't have to sell it, right? People would be climbing all over each other trying to get it. So the only things that need to be sold are those things that don't have obvious intrinsic value. Given that this is our traditional societal view of sales, it's no wonder that a creator like you and like me has a hard time feeling gung-ho about going out and selling your creations. Because if your creation, whether it's your book or it's another product or service you offer, has intrinsic value, then people should just know that, right? They should just want it. And if you were to go out and sell it, it would almost call into question the intrinsic value of it by the fact that you're even having to sell it. To resolve this apparent paradox, what is called for is a new paradigm for sales. It's a paradigm that I call sleaze-free selling. It's a paradigm in which one's creation is offered rather than sold. It's a paradigm that assumes the intrinsic value of the creation, but which also takes into consideration the insane reality of our crowded modern marketplace. In other words, it's a paradigm in which you do need to take actions that allow your creations to stand out in this crowded marketplace. But you'll see very shortly here that these actions don't need to be pushy or make you feel self-conscious or give you the kind of heebie-jeebies that make you not want to take those actions. All that stuff that feels sleazy. Let me give you a concrete example of what I'm talking about so that we're all on the same page here. And then I'll give you a few quick exercises to work on so you can take Sleaze-Free Selling home with you. Imagine a statue displayed on a pedestal in the middle of a room in a fancy exhibit hall with a red velvet rope on all sides and a stone-faced security guard in the corner. That statue has intrinsic value, right? And the best of all, if you happen to be the creator of that statue, there was no salesmanship required to convey that information, right? There was no high-pressure sales tactics, no hawking. It was simply understood by everyone who saw the statue that it had intrinsic value, without anybody needing to sell it. No need to sell it? Really? Are you sure? I can see that some of you are beginning to catch on to what I'm getting at here with this line of questioning, but to help the rest of you catch up, let me present the opposite scenario. Imagine that exact same statue, but this time it's been dumped carelessly on a card table at a garage sale between a broken lamp and a pile of old sneakers, and it hasn't even been dusted off. How much value does that statue have in your mind? And how much would you expect to pay for it relative to the other statue, which is the exact same statue, just presented very differently? I need to turn my page. Hopefully my point is becoming clear. Sales isn't all about the words that you say, your sales copy, your book description, your patter, the cold calls you make, the keywords that you use online. It's about your fundamental attitude towards what you're selling. It's about you valuing your creation and then taking whatever obvious next steps are necessary to convey that value to the people who might want to buy it. Dusting it off, putting a red velvet rope around it, putting it up on a pedestal. Your role and your responsibility as an author is to present your art to the world in this way, not on some garage sales card table. The exercise that I'm going to go through with you in a moment explain how to do that, but before we continue, I want to address the elephant that's in the room, namely my premise that your creation, your book, has value, and that you, the creator, believe in the value of your creation, at least enough to tell the world about it. We heard from Jay Thorpe earlier today, very interestingly, right, about how his initial books, they actually weren't that good. And I asked him when we had dinner together last night, how did you know when you had a good book? And he said, I knew when I had sales. And that's one good answer. I certainly doubted the value of my work when I first began. When I first released my book, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Sleaze-Free Selling, I had no idea if it was any good or not. I needed external validation in the form of, in my case, a top 10 Amazon 500 reviewer who specialized in sales books. And I begged this guy to review my book for me. And he agreed, and so I spent the next 10 days while he read my book and wrote the review on pins and needles, waiting to hear if he thought that my book was a piece of crap. You can imagine how relieved I was when he submitted his review and it said that not only was it not a pile of crap, he actually said it was one of the better sales books that he had read. And he thought that I had come up with some new ideas about sales that were needed in our modern world. And for me, that validation, that review, is what I needed to give me the confidence to go out in the world promoting my book. Because I now felt total confidence that my creation was good. And this confidence allowed me to take the actions that I needed to turn my book into an Amazon bestseller. If I hadn't known for sure whether my book was good or not, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to ask my friends to promote it and everything else that we did to make it a bestseller. How many of you, I'm just curious, have the feeling inside that, yeah, my creation is good. I know it's good. Okay, about a third of you. And how many of you feel the opposite? It's harder to admit. But how many of you feel that same kind of doubt? Like, I don't know. It might be crappy. I don't know. Okay, nobody's willing to admit it. That's fine. As I said before, no matter what strategies you hear today for promoting your book, your business, your message, you won't be able to take action on any of them until you have that confidence to do so, down here in your gut or here in your heart. And that begins with valuing your creation, having the belief that what you're selling, what you've created, is good, that it deserves to be on this pedestal, behind that red velvet rope in the fancy exhibit hall. Because when you have the mindset that what you're selling is good, it's almost impossible for your sales tactics to be sleazy. But by the same token, they become very effective. It's almost like a natural chain reaction. Because here's what happens when you have this core belief about your creations. Number one, and I'm sorry I don't have my slides. I was remiss in getting them in on time, so normally I would have these listed for you. Number one, you're comfortable charging a fair price because it wouldn't feel good to you to sell your valuable creation for less than what it's worth. Number two, the idea of telling people about your creation feels natural and easy, rather than feeling embarrassed or hesitant because you don't know, I don't know if it's any good, I don't know if you want to hear about it. Third, you don't have to be pushy, ever, because you know that if this person doesn't buy it, the next guy will. And fourth, perhaps most important of all, it doesn't devastate you when someone says no or when someone writes a bad review, because you know that your work has value, and one person's negative comment or their no doesn't change that fact. So helping you to achieve that mindset and to believe what I have to sell is good and to start this entire other chain reaction is really what I specialize in. If you know that you have significant emotional mental blockages to the very idea of selling, I can probably help you. Whatever your blockage is, I can identify it, and then I can help you start to clear it. And whether it's this kind of mindset things, or if it's actually getting into action on a marketing plan, I have a two-pronged approach. And to help you take yourself and your books out to a much larger audience. So I have a 7-step action plan for you, but I see I'm completely out of time. Jim is already in the on-deck circle waiting with the cane. So the 7-step action plan is how to take your book from garage sale reject to exhibit hall masterpiece in 7 easy steps. And like I said, the 7 steps aren't on the screen, but if you want them, please just see me. I'll just give you the notes for my presentation here that has the steps and the full detailed explanation of how to implement them into your marketing. Just come and see me, and I'd love to look forward to talking to you later. Thank you very much.